So Victor has a manufacturing company that not only survived, but thrived during the pandemic. He said, "I watched my first business crumble in 2008 and I swore never again." Today, we're revealing the financial strategy that helps business owners like Victor create certainty during the most uncertain economic times in a generation, and how you can build the same financial fortress regardless of what inflation, recession, or market volatility throws at your business. Who wants more certainty? You better raise all the hands. Let's jump in.
In a world where chaos seems to reign supreme, where uncertainty lurks around every corner, and financial markets are now more unpredictable than ever, there's one place you can turn to find clarity and control. Welcome to the Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast.
Hey, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Amanda.
Join us as we dive deep in the world of personal and business finance
to assist you in navigating through the chaos and building the financial future you deserve.
We believe when conventional financial thinking doesn't get you where you want to go,
you need wealth wisdom.
So if you're ready to take control of your financial destiny,
tune in to the Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast.
Because in a chaotic world, your money shouldn't be.
Subscribe now and never miss an episode.
Okay, actually, before we jump in, we want to share a very special announcement. We're hosting a Freedom Retreat at the beginning of August 2025. It's August 5th through 7th. It's for business owners. This is the last time we're going to mention on the podcast. So this is your chance. If you're catching this and you're serious about using your business to create financial, relational, emotional, social, mental, spiritual, time freedom, please text the word freedom to 513-447-6501. Again, freedom. 513-447-6501. We'll share more. It's an intimate retreat designed to set the stage for the next level of your freedom journey, accomplishing that next level within the next 12 months, if not by the end of 2025. Space is limited. It's an intimate retreat. We can't wait to hear from you and help you see if this is the right fit for you.
Yeah, I do think some of this, the financial freedom retreat that we are doing, a lot of times people got into business for freedom, and they're in it and they're like, wait a second, I just traded my old job for this new job, and something's weird. We understand that because we've been in that position, and we want to bring true freedom for you in all areas of life. So again, 513-447-6501, and put in freedom as a text.
Yep. Oh, one thing we probably should have shared earlier. We're hosting it here in Cincinnati, partly because not just that we live here, but because there's some really unique places that are important to the freedom journey of so many Americans, and I guess now Canadians, that you might be able to guess what it is, but I bet you've never heard of the place that we're going to go as part of this retreat, one of the activities that we're doing. So if you want freedom, this freedom retreat is for you.
Awesome. Now let's talk about preparing your business for an economy that seems increasingly unpredictable. I mean, I do feel like that's happening all the time. Like, unpredictability is like the word
of the year.
Every I feel like every year nowadays.
Yeah. So let's go back to Victor. You met him at the top of the episode. He is a custom furniture manufacturing company that he now has. His former business was a construction business that he lost during the 2008 financial crisis. That loss of his first business taught Victor a very powerful lesson about financial preparedness that many business owners learn too late. So we're going to be learning from Victor's story today. Here's how Victor explains it. Quote, "When my construction business failed, I had everything tied up in the business. Real estate investments that suddenly became illiquid, retirement accounts I couldn't touch without severe penalties. On paper, I was worth $2 million. In reality, I couldn't access that when I needed it most."
When Victor launched his manufacturing business in 2010, he structured his finances differently. While still investing in traditional vehicles, he used the profit first strategy to redirect substantial cash flow into creating financial reserves he could access without restrictions.
Yeah, and of course, this approach was tested severely when the pandemic hit in 2020. His business was 10 years old. It was a manufacturing custom furniture. You can only imagine what happened. Many actually of Victor's competitors faced this perfect storm: supply chain disruptions, skilled labor shortages, skyrocketing material costs. There was some consolidation in the lumber industry. Even getting the wood for his stuff was hard. Several of his competitors went under or sold at distressed valuations. Victor's business faced the same exact challenges, but with a crucial difference. When lumber prices tripled, he had the capital to forward purchase 6 months of inventory. When a competitor was forced to liquidate state-of-the-art equipment at 40 cents on the dollar, Victor had the cash to acquire it. When skilled craftspeople were being laid off from other shops, Victor had the financial runway to hire them even before he had the orders to justify the expanded workforce. What Victor says is, quote, "Everyone was playing defense, just trying to survive. Because of our financial position, we could play offense when no one else could."
Then by 2022, Victor's company had doubled its market share, upgraded its capabilities, and secured its supply chain, all during a period when his industry contracted by nearly 20%. I mean, that's huge.
That was a fancy way of saying 1 out of 5 businesses in an industry closed between 2020 and 2022.
Yeah.
And his business doubled.
Yeah.
I mean, how bananas is that?
The key difference wasn't that Victor was smarter or worked harder than his competitors. It was that he had built a financial structure that created certainty during profoundly uncertain times. He had liquidity when others had none, options when others had a few, and confidence when others were paralyzed by fear.
Yeah, Victor's story highlights a fundamental challenge facing business owners in today's volatile economic environment. The conventional financial thinking about maximizing tax advantage retirement contributions, keeping minimal business cash reserves to avoid lazy capital, and leveraging debt to fuel growth. All of that traditional conventional thinking leaves many business owners dangerously exposed when economic conditions deteriorate rapidly. I remember back in 2020, it was like the tide had gone out and everyone realized the emperor had no clothes, right? Like, yep. You don't want to be in that position, and yet the tide goes out.
So what if there was an approach that gave you both long-term financial security and flexibility to navigate economic volatility? That's what we do. That's what we're also exploring today and sharing how powerful this concept and things are, because I think it's going to continue to get crazy.
Yeah. So Victor's experience points to a critical truth. In increasingly unpredictable economic times, business owners need financial strategies that provide both safety and strategic flexibility. The conventional approaches to business finance and personal wealth building simply don't match the reality of today's economic environment. Consider these 5 factors that business owners have faced in just the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, when you say these things, I just want you to listen, and you might have said, that was such a long time ago, but it wasn't, because we have this thing of where we forgot, but right. How many things have happened?
Yeah, none of us know what's happened in the next 5 years, but we can remember what's happened recently. So 1, pandemic driven shutdowns and supply chain disruptions. 2, the highest inflation rates in 40 years. 3, the most aggressive interest rate hikes in decades. 4, labor market dislocations and wage inflation. Hello, what was that called?
The exit, quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting, the Great Resignation. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
5, volatile energy costs affecting everything from manufacturing to logistics.
That's just a few.
Yeah. The traditional advice to keep minimal cash in your business and max out tax advantage retirement vehicles works well-ish in stable economic times, so gradual, predictable changes. But it can be devastating when economic conditions deteriorate rapidly.
And they keep changing.
I'm going to tell you about Lila. Lila built a network of high-end salons across the Southwest. Like many successful business owners, Lila followed conventional wisdom. She maintained minimal cash reserves in her business, about 45 days of operating expenses for her, invested heavily in tax advantage retirement accounts, and used business debt strategically for expansion. When the pandemic forced the temporary closure of all her locations, Lila's business model, which had been remarkably stable for years, was suddenly under existential threats. Fixed cost continued while revenue disappeared. Her retirement savings, substantial after years of disciplined contributions, were effectively locked away unless she wanted to pay significant penalties and taxes at the worst possible time. Lila was able to secure an SBA disaster loan and PPP funding, but the amounts weren't sufficient to weather an extended disruption. She was forced to close 2 locations permanently and take on high-interest debt that will constrain her business's growth for years to come. She reflected afterward, "I did everything the financial experts told me to do, but their advice assumed normal economic conditions would continue indefinitely, and we all know that is not ever going to happen." Now, contrast this Lila's experience with Daniel's. Daniel operates a similar high-end salon business in the Pacific Northwest, just north of Lila's. But years earlier, Daniel had learned about the bank on yourself strategy and implemented it as part of his financial approach. When the pandemic hit, Daniel had built up significant cash value in several properly structured bank on yourself policies, and he was able to access this capital through policy loans without penalties or taxes. And he did take the PPP funding, right? So this, both the PPP and the policy loans gave him the flexibility to keep all locations intact through extended closures, retrofit his salons with enhanced air filtration and partitions between stations so he could open earlier than other salons did, develop a proprietary app allowing clients to check in remotely and minimize time in waiting areas and actually schedule more appointments rather than like have to call. They could do it right from that app. Amazing. I hate calling people. Like at least like services to schedule. I'm like, couldn't I just do this on a website or whatever? Anyway, and then 4th, retaining his top stylist with partial pay during those closures. Now, those top stylists had nothing to do, right? And they didn't want to get paid to do nothing. So they got creative. They actually used that time to make social media content about fun hairstyles you could do at home to feel beautiful in an ugly time and kind of promote this, beauty in the midst of chaos campaign. And the increase in followers brought in lots more business once the salon reopened.
By the time restrictions eased, Daniel's business was positioned to capture market shares from competitors who had closed permanently or significantly reduced their service capabilities. His sales in Q3 of 2022 were 32% higher than pre-pandemic levels, while the industry as a whole remained below 2019 revenue. Again, we're talking about the pandemic here. People are like, I'm over this, but it was very recent. People want to forget about it, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, and we can still learn lessons from it. Like Daniel explained to us, quote, "The bank on yourself approach gave me options when others had none, and options are priceless during economic disruption." So even if we never have another pandemic ever again, hopefully not, but we will have economic disruption. And what options do you want to have?
That's tariffs. I don't know.
All the things.
I didn't even know what that word was in 2020.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I did, but this is a paradigm shift successful business owners are making, moving from rigid financial structures that leave them vulnerable during economic shocks to flexible strategies that create certainty even in the most uncertain times.
We're going to get even more into it after the break.
Ready to take the next step towards securing your financial future? Whether you're planning for retirement, saving for your dream home, or you just want to make your money work harder for you, the team at Wealth Wisdom Financial are ready to assist you. And now it's easier than ever to see how we might give you a boost on your financial journey.
Schedule a 15-minute discovery call with one of us today.
And let's discuss your questions and your financial goals together.
Don't wait any longer. Your financial freedom awaits. Schedule your discovery call at www.wealthwisdomfp.com/call.
I can hear the objections forming in my head again. Isn't this just advocating for keeping more cash in the business? Couldn't Lila have simply maintained larger cash reserves? It's a fair question, but it misses several crucial distinctions.
First, there's the opportunity cost issue. Keeping large cash reserves in business accounts typically means accepting minimal yields, especially because business accounts have even lower interest rates typically than personal savings accounts.
And that's low.
And it's very low. This creates significant drag on business performance and returns on the capital of the business. In contrast, the cash value in a properly structured bank-in-yourself designed policy grows on a tax advantage basis, potentially at higher rates, actually rates significantly higher than the business bank accounts, while still remaining accessible. Second, there's the discipline factor. Business cash reserves are notoriously vulnerable to being deployed for quote-unquote opportunities that may or may not deliver long-term value. External capital reserves in a bank-in-yourself type policy create a psychological separation that helps preserve those funds for genuine strategic needs rather than merely convenient opportunities. If you've ever had a cookie jar and been a child, you know what I'm talking about here, right? And then third,
I'm an adult and cookie jars still has the same
effect.
Yep.
Third, and perhaps most importantly, there's the scale issue. Most businesses would struggle to maintain cash reserves sufficient for truly disruptive economic events without significantly impairing growth. We hear this over and over again. My business is growing too quickly. I can't keep cash. I need to keep deploying it, putting it in there. It's growing. Their business owners are just notoriously bad at keeping cash available in case of emergency because they're seeing such growth, such good returns in their business.
Yep.
And of course, the pandemic was not just a 2-week disruption. For many businesses, it created 12 or more months of severely impaired operations. Few businesses could justify keeping a month or more's worth of operating expenses and cash reserves when their business is growing so rapidly.
The banking yourself approach provides a solution to this dilemma by creating accessible capital outside the business without the restrictions of traditional retirement accounts. Again, we've said this in previous episodes. This is a power play having that available. But what about inflation protection? This is where the banking yourself strategy offers another crucial advantage, as demonstrated by Alexandra's experience.
So Alexandra owns a regional food distribution business serving farm-to-table restaurants across 3 states. She coordinates with the farms, gets the food to the restaurants, helping the farms with all, focus on farming. The restaurants get us, steady source of food, right? And she's going between those. And then inflation surged to 40-year highs. And her business faced severe margin pressure. Food costs increased dramatically. Fuel costs for her delivery fleet nearly doubled. Wages had to increase to retain drivers and warehouse staff. Many competitors responded by either raising prices dramatically, which lost them customers, or absorbing the cost, which devastated their profitability. Neither approach was sustainable. Alexandra, however, had been implementing the bank and yourself strategy for nearly a decade. She had built up substantial cash value that she could access through policy loans. This allowed her to make strategic investments that insulated her business from inflation. So first, she forward purchased non-perishable inventory before announced price increases took effect, right? If you're bought in bulk from other warehouses, they're like, prices are increasing, order now, to get them a bunch of things,
I've
right?
heard those commercials.
She had the money to do that, right? Secondly, she acquired 2 smaller competitors struggling with cash flow at favorable valuations.
They didn't have a good financial system.
Right. Third, she installed some solar panels at her warehouses, reducing exposure to rising energy costs. Great for her and for the environment and her farm to table, right? Like she cares about that. And then fourth, she purchased rather than leased a new fleet of fuel-efficient delivery vehicles, reducing both fuel costs and the exposure to inflation-adjusted lease terms. She's able to keep those cars for longer, use them for, more deliveries, all the things without having to worry about interest or fees for using them too much, or when she needs a new fleet in 5 years when the lease term ends. Lots of cool things. These investments, though, required substantial capital deployed quickly when inflation first began accelerating, before most businesses even recognized that it wasn't just transitory, initially claimed. And she was able to use her bank and yourself type policies to give her access to capital without navigating banks' approvals during increasingly restrictive monetary conditions that were happening at the same time. So her competitors were being reactive to inflation. She could be proactive, and that made all the difference.
So by mid-2023, Alexandra's business had increased its operation efficiency enough that it could actually reduce prices to consumers while maintaining healthy margins, capturing significant market shares from less adaptive competitions.
This highlights another dimension of economic volatility that the bank and yourself approach addresses: inflation's impact on debt-dependent businesses. Think about it. As interest rates rise to combat inflation, businesses relying on credit line and variable rate debt face increasing costs at precisely the same time when other input costs are also rising. That's a bad feedback loop, right?
Yeah, you don't want that.
Right. Those with accessible capital outside of traditional banking relationships, like Alexandra, gain tremendous competitive advantages in inflationary environments.
Now let's address another common objection. Don't I need to maximize tax advantage retirement accounts first? Isn't that just mathematical common sense? I mean, I've heard people say that, right? The perspective misses a crucial reality for business owners. The best investment is often your own business, especially during economic disruption, when acquisition opportunities emerge and competitions falter.
So consider Marcus, who built a successful chain of fitness centers. Like many business owners, Marcus had diligently funded his retirement accounts for years. When the pandemic forced temporary fitness center closures, his business faced significant challenges. However, the disruption also created extraordinary opportunities. Numerous independent gyms and even some regional chains were closing permanently or selling at distressed valuations. The real estate market for commercial gym spaces had softened considerably. Exercise equipment was available at liquidation prices. And Marcus could see the potential to expand his business at unprecedented valuations, potentially doubling his market presence at a fraction of the pre-pandemic cost. Right? Not everything was experiencing inflation. Lots of things were on sale.
Yep.
This opportunity, though, wouldn't last. Institutional investors were already beginning to move into the space. Hello, private equity. The challenge, while Marcus had significant wealth in retirement accounts, accessing those funds would trigger taxes and penalties. His business cash reserves had been depleted when they were used to maintain operations during closures, and traditional business loans were difficult to secure given the industry's uncertain outlook. Marcus had to watch as most of these opportunities passed him by. He eventually secured financing for a modest expansion, but at terms far less favorable than would have been possible 6 months earlier. Marcus reflected, "It was frustrating to have the vision and industry knowledge to recognize a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but not the financial structure to capitalize on it."
Now, contrast that with Evelyn, who operates a similar fitness business. Evelyn had incorporated the banking yourself strategy into her financial approach. That she had done that years earlier prior to this thing that happened. When the pandemic created industry disruptions, she had built up significant accessible capital in her policies. Evelyn was able to acquire 4 competitor locations at approximately 30% of the pandemic's valuation. She was able to purchase state-of-the-art equipment packages from closing facilities at liquidation prices. So she was able to grow more because she had that. She was able to secure long-term leases at favorable rates in premium locations that had previously had multi-year waiting lists. And she was able to fund an accelerated digital transformation that integrated her physical facilities with competing virtual fitness offerings. By 2023, Evelyn's business had grown from 6 locations to a disciplined mix of 16 physical locations and a robust digital offering. Her revenue had more than doubled, and her market value had increased approximately threefold.
Evelyn explains, echoing Warren Buffett's famous investment advice, quote, "The bank and yourself approach let me be greedy when others were fearful, but not recklessly greedy, strategically greedy with a safety net still intact." Who would want to be greedy when others are fearful?
Oh,
This, maybe you don't want to really be greedy, but you definitely don't want to be fearful like everyone else is. This points to what may be the most powerful aspect of the bank on yourself approach for business owners: navigating economic volatility. Here you go. Here it is. It enables strategic opportunism with reduced risk. It allows you to move toward opportunities when others are paralyzed by uncertainty without betting the entire business on a single strategic move. And for those still looking to reduce your taxes in the current year by contributing to pre-tax retirement accounts, consider all the tax advantages Evelyn got in her expansion. And go back to our first episode this month in our future-proofing series, where we revealed why business owners often end up in higher tax brackets in retirement than before.
And here's something most business owners don't fully appreciate until they've lived through significant economic disruption. Or like for us, I think about, we went through a flood, right? So we kind of appreciate that. And I don't want to go through a flood, but it's volatility creates opportunity for the prepared. The greatest transfers of market share and wealth often occur not during boom times, but during periods of economic stress when only the most financially adaptable businesses can capitalize on opportunities, those who have the cash. With the bank and yourself approach, business owners can build long-term financial security while maintaining the flexibility to navigate volatility and seize opportunities when they emerge. And you never know when they will emerge. Often at the precise moment when conventional financial structures are most constrained is when you need the money.
Yeah, so think through the stories we shared today of Victor, Lila, Daniel, Alexandra, Marcus, and Evelyn, and how they highlight a fundamental truth for business owners navigating all kinds of volatile economic environments. The financial structures you build during stable times determine your options during unstable times. And I would add, and it's never too late to build financial structures that are going to serve you during both stable and unstable times. Traditional approaches to business finance and personal wealth building force owners to choose between long-term security and short-term flexibility. They create artificial separations between business capital and personal capital. They assume stable economic conditions will persist indefinitely when we all know that is not true. But the bank on yourself strategy recognizes the business reality that business owners face. In a world of increasing economic volatility, financial flexibility isn't just a nice to have, it's an essential for both survival and strategic opportunity. It's not about rejecting traditional retirement vehicles or business finance principles entirely. It's about creating a mix of them and looking at different options and what works for your specific situation and your specific business and your specific goals, hopes, and dreams. Not just taking the cookie cutter approach that every financial advisor is telling every person they meet, no matter what their background is.
The business owners we work with who embraced this approach share a common perspective. They say, for the first time, I feel prepared for both the future I can predict and the disruptions I can't. They're ready for the ups and the downs and able to leverage whichever way it goes. Remember Lila's experience from earlier? She eventually rebuilt her salon business, but with 2 fewer locations and significant debt that will limit her growth and increase her vulnerability to the next economic shock. This outcome wasn't inevitable. It was the direct result of financial strategy that worked well in stable times, but failed during volatility. With the bank and yourself approach, business owners can build wealth for the future while maintaining the capital flexibility to navigate economic turbulence when it inevitably arrives. This creates something increasingly precious in today's environment: certainty during uncertain times. I mean, we want stability, and that's something we work on a lot, is building the financial foundation.
So here's the thing. You're probably wondering if this bank and yourself strategy could help you too, and how, and all the things. It doesn't work for everybody. It might help you recession resist and inflation protect your business. You just got to find out. Well, how do you find out? Well, it's not a secret. We've actually created something special for you today. We're publishing it in the Wealth Wisdom financial community. It's called the Business Economic Resilience Blueprint, that will help you evaluate your current financial strategy and identify potential vulnerabilities and opportunities. It has 7 critical financial levers every business owner needs to adjust before the next economic downturn, plus a framework for calculating how much accessible capital your specific business might need during extended disruption. All you gotta do is join the Wealth Wisdom financial community at wealthwisdomfp.com/community. You can even try it for free. You get this resource as well as access to a library of awesome resources with a search bar that you can search and find what you're looking for, as well as an invitation to our monthly group coaching. In today's economic environment, having your capital locked away where you cannot access it could be the difference between merely surviving and strategically thriving during the next inevitable disruption. Jump into our community. We're supporting each other. We're helping each other build stability, no matter what kind of economic instability that we're facing. We'd love to see you in there. Again, wealthwisdomfp.com/community.
And you had mentioned that it might not work for everybody, but here's the thing. It probably works for a good majority of people.
They just never look into it.
Yeah, they never look into it. So look into it. Go to wealthwisdomfp.com/call. Do a full analysis and see. It's not going to replace everything, but it's a way of having that volatility buffer, that way of having access to capital when something does happen. And so by thinking proactively about it, not right when things are happening, and then you call us and say, hey, can you help me? We would like to make sure we're building the good foundation now before the proverbial things hit the fan.
For now, yeah. Thanks for joining us. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Give this video a like if you're watching on YouTube, or comment. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we hope that you live long and profit. The stories in today's episode are purely fictional and do not depict any actual person or event. The topics presented in this podcast are for general information and maybe some entertainment only, and not for the purposes of providing legal, accounting, investment, or business advice. On such matters, please consult a professional who knows your specific situation.